Jim Rogers, CEO at Rogers Holdings, is with us, joining us from the Singapore studios this morning. Jim, good morning. Great to have you here on the show. Prashant this side. Good to have you after
Delighted to see you, Prashant.
It's been a while. I just want to start by asking you, what's your view of global markets as we wrap this year out, and what have you got money on? I mean, what are the big themes that you've got money on right now, and then we'll get into specifics.
Well, I'm not very optimistic about what's happening in the world economy going forward, so I am mainly short stocks around the world. I'm short American technology stocks, I'm short European stocks, and I'm short emerging market stocks. I do own commodities, especially agriculture and precious metals, and I own currencies. I'm not optimistic, Prashant, going forward.
Anything in emerging markets, India, I mean equities, or nothing? Nothing yet?
No. I have sold short emerging markets. India's an emerging market, as you know. So I've sold short, not all emerging markets, but a basket of emerging markets around the world, which includes India.
All right.
So far, it's been profitable. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but so far, so good.
Absolutely. Just a quick comment on American equities. Strangely, weirdly, whatever word you want to use, I mean, they've held out incredibly strongly. I mean, almost flat for the year, 2011. What's going on, Jim? Is there something we can't see, or I mean, what is it?
Well, Prashant, what's going on is the Federal Reserve, the central bank in America, is printing huge amounts of money still. If you get out the M2 numbers, the monetary numbers, you can see that they have continued to print money. The last few weeks, they've slowed it down. But what's going on is they're printing money, and that's going into the stock market.
Jim, good morning. Devina here. I was just reading an article which said Jim Rogers has branded U.S. Treasuries as one of the last remaining asset bubbles left in the world. Could you throw some more light? Why did you say that?
Well, Davina, because it is. I cannot conceive, Davina, of lending money to the United States government for 30 years in U.S. dollars at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% interest. You pick the interest rate. I mean, the United States is the largest debtor in the history of the world. The debts are going through the roof. They're printing money. That's a bubble. Now, the problem with bubbles is they always go far further than anybody can imagine, any rational person can imagine. I've shorted bonds a couple of times in the U.S., had to take small losses and start over. I'm waiting to short it again. But it's a bubble. I don't know when it will end, just like all bubbles, but it will end.
Jim, constantly, right now, what's been playing up have been these rating agencies which have been talking about downgrading sovereign debt. You spoke about U.S. and just yesterday, we had Fitch come out and said that there is a possibility of that AAA rating being under threat because of its debt burden. How big a play do you think, sovereign debt and particularly investing in treasuries, be it any national treasury, not just U.S.?
Davina, I would suggest you stop paying attention to the rating agencies. Maybe you have to because you're a journalist, but I've stopped paying attention to rating agencies many years ago because they don't know what they're doing. They've proved it over and over and over. Pay attention to them. It's absurd that the United States is AAA. It's absurd that the UK is AAA. I mean, the United States is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, Davina, and the debts are skyrocketing, over $1 trillion US every year. That's not AAA. Many of the places that they say are AAA are going to have to be downgraded, and if the agencies don't catch on, the market's already downgrading many of them.
Jim, I've asked you earlier as well. What is the end game? You're short U.S. stocks. The Fed will keep printing. They can keep printing unlimited amounts of money. There's been a fair bit of talk on the fringe in terms of what's the end game. If the current system is not going to last in the way it is, what's the end game? You're owning a lot of commodities. I mean, in a way, you're preparing yourself for that, I would assume. How do you see it panning out?
Well, Prashant, well, yes, that's exactly part of what's going on. If the world economy gets better, Prashant, which many people say it will, then I'm going to make money in commodities because there are huge shortages developing of everything. But Prashant, if the world economy doesn't get better, I want to own commodities because they're going to print a lot more money. The way to protect yourself when they print a lot of money is to own real assets. So that's my play. You're not going to make money in Toyota or IBM if the world economy gets worse. You might make money in silver if they continue to print a lot of money. The end game is going to be more bankruptcies. I mean, 2013 is going to be a terrible year for the world economy, and the only reason I didn't say 2012 is because we have an election in the U.S., election in France. You know, governments are going to spend a lot of money and print a lot of money, but boy, be very worried about 2013 and afterwards.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone, fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.